We're back again on Lutherans Alive with Gwen Steiner, a member of the Penn Zions Lutheran Parish in the Harrison City, Penn Township area of Westmoreland County. Gwen, again, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And we're talking about the Fair Trade Exchange program that has been, do we know about how long it's actually been in existence?
Within our Synod, it's been since about 2002
Okay.
that we've taken an interest in it.
So more than a half dozen years already.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us who is actually responsible for administrating the Fair Trade program and how that works?
In our Synod, I'm the Fair Trade Coordinator.
Okay.
We're the only Synod that has a Fair Trade ministry, which is very exciting.
Mm.
And
On the cutting edge.
On the cutting edge, yes. And so what we do is I've connected with a number of different Fair Trade ministries around the world. And in order to be fair trade, they have to meet certain fair trade standards. Mm. And so if an organization is fair trade certified, then we can read about that and know that it's a good place to get items from. There are some things that we sell that's called fairly traded, not totally fair trade. And part of the reason is that some of the organizations are so poor that they can't pay to become a fair trade organization because you have to pay for that license and that certification. So some of those organizations we also connect with, and we find out about them for like missionaries and those types of things because they're really grassroots groups. They're not ones that have made maybe U.S. connections per se. Okay. So we get connected with those groups, and then we just start ordering different items.
Just for example, what are some of the places around the world that are participating in the fair trade at this time?
Like I said, we have 55 countries right now that we're connected with. India, Bangladesh, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Nicaragua, Bolivia, just on and on.
So virtually across the continents of the world, people are participating.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, and some of the European ones are starting. They're a little bit harder to connect with, which is kind of interesting. But we have connected with a group in Poland, and we have one from Czechoslovakia. Okay. So we're getting and Russia. So we're getting some of those more European ones as well.
Why don't we start taking a look at some of the items that are available through fair trade?
We have here this scarf, and it's from a group called Into, and that group was actually started by a woman who went to college on a one-year exchange program over to Ecuador. Oh. And while there, she fell in love with the people in Ecuador, and when she graduated, decided that that's what she wanted to do. She had a business degree. And so she started this company, and she goes back and forth and brings items back. And right now she's, in addition to doing this type of ministry with the different scarves, is she's looking at some sports-related programs. Uh-huh. She was a basketball player, so she is now looking at doing basketball camps and things. And she just came back from actually teaching the moms how to play basketball.
Okay.
So
it's a very nice material.
Mm-hmm. They do wonderful work, and there's about 7 women that work in that particular co-op for them. Okay. This plate came from a group of women in Uganda, and the woman that started this program, she actually worked for Thrivent and took a mission trip over to Uganda and Tanzania and met 2 women's groups over there. Oh. And she made them into prayer partners. And so each morning the groups pray for each other, and then they do whatever type of craft work they do. And then this woman has brought them out and has actually started a fairly large fair trade ministry. She's operating out of Colorado. But a lot of the issues and the money that goes back to these organizations work with AIDS relief, because those communities are very affected by AIDS. Mm-hmm. The bean soup is actually one of our domestic products, and it was probably one of the first ones that we sold. And it's the Women's Bean Project, and they do a variety of different types of soups, salsa mixes. And this group is in Colorado, and What they do, they brought women off the streets that are homeless, and they provide for them not only a safe place to stay, but they provide for them education and life skills, whatever things that they need to be successful the next time they're out on, they have a place of their own. And they just got national acclaim. One of the home makeover shows actually went in and made over their kitchen for them, which was really neat, yes.
Yeah.
So they do a really neat job. And each of the women sign that whoever mixed the soup or whatever it is, they sign their card and tell you.
There seems to be a common theme that not only is there a product that is sold, but that it connects back to making a positive difference, a constructive difference in the lives of the people, either who are involved or in their communities. Give our friendly lemur a couple of minutes of fame as well. And these are handmade?
Those are handmade from women in
lemurs.
Madagascar.
Lemurs, of course, are unique to Madagascar.
They are, yes. And those, like I said, those had been used to build the first shelter for domestic abuse and then provide education as well relating to those issues. So we're pretty excited about that taking place. The coffee is from a group called Equal Exchange, which is probably one of the most popular and most vocal and advocacy type group relating to fair trade. They do primarily coffee, but they have branched out and they do sugar and tea and some other. They've also just started connecting domestically as well for like the pecans and things. I was privileged to go on a trip to Nicaragua, which was a combination of a Lutheran World Relief and Equal Exchange trip, and got to live and pick coffee with a family. And the amount of work that goes into a cup of coffee is just amazing. It takes at least 13 steps before it even, can get to being ready to go leave your door. And because a coffee bean is actually like a cherry inside of a cherry. You have to pick the cherry, you have to depulp the cherry, you have to dry the beans, and there's all these other processes that go with it. And then the last process is that they have to look for cracked beans because the United States and Europe will not buy cracked beans. We don't think the coffee's good enough. But the neat thing about that is the village that I lived in, they actually built an elementary school. And that is what they did with some of the extra money. And it was neat, very neat to see.
It's a very labor-intensive product, and it's got an interesting story in itself. We do have to take another short break, and we can come back and talk a little bit more about some of the products, but also maybe some of the positive benefits that you see as congregations and people get involved in this kind of ministry. We'll be back in just a minute.